And we're back once again, another episode of NX Office Hours, where we answer your questions about NX, whether you're new to using NX or an existing user may have run into some issues. I'm Brandon T. Roberts on Twitter. You can follow me there. Yuri, you've been on the show before, but you can go ahead and introduce yourself again.
Yeah, I'm Yuri. I work on the NX core team as well, and you can find me on YuriSDR on Twitter.
Cool.
Glad to be here again.
Glad to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. I gotta slide over this way. So I'm got to get those narwhals in the view there on my screen. But yeah, like I said, this is where we answer your questions. If you're in the live chat, feel free to ask questions there. And we've gotten questions on Slack and some from Twitter. And we'll go through them. And if we don't answer your questions today, then we'll keep them for a future show. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get into some of these questions. And there was a big announcement just a little while ago, but we'll talk about that a little later with NX also. So but you gotta wait around a little bit for that. So the first question that I saw that we gathered was, can I use NX without moving my files, moving around my files in an Angular CLI workspace? Because traditionally, when you're running, you have an existing application just like a regular Angular CLI workspace, and you would run a command such as ng add, here. You would run something similar to ng add at narwhal /workspace. And what that does is, if you just have a single single Angular CLI project in your workspace, it would move your files around. It would restructure your project into apps and libs so that you can migrate from your existing structure to an NX workspace structure, so that you can, like I said, migrate that way. We introduced something more recently that will allow you to add NX workspace functionality to your existing workspace without moving all your files around. And this is like if you want to, like I said, get running with NX quickly and not necessarily change your file structure, but still be able to do all the commands and the commands and everything there for that. So I'll bring that up here. And the command is the same as before. It's ng add at narwhal workspace. And then you just add an option on the end, which is -- preserve Angular CLI layout.
Oh, and cool. I didn't know about this one. Is it using the custom workspace layout options?
It will. Well, it allows you. Since we don't. Well, all the command, it doesn't move any files around, so you don't have to set up a custom workspace layout yet. But what it does is adds like the base NX JSON to your project and like but it doesn't touch any of your package. It adds one thing to your package scripts. Yeah, adds one thing to your package scripts to allow you to run NX, against your existing project. And then if you want to take it further than that, then you can like add the schematics, the narwhal Angular package, and then more or less migrate towards a more traditional NX workspace that way. But like I said, it allows you to do go ahead.
So it's similar to the make Angular CLI faster NPM package, right? So it does a similar job to that one. Cool.
Yep. Does a similar job to that one. It adds the NX JSON. I think it does maybe some minimal changes to your package JSON for being able to run NX. And the decorate Angular CLI is just a small script that you can modify that we add to your workspace that allows you to use NX to run the commands that you would traditionally run with ng. because you get that computation caching built in. And that way, if you're running the ng command, by accident or something like that, then it'll still be using NX in that way, so that you always get faster builds. And if you're using it in CI, then you'll get that caching. If you hooked up to NX Cloud, of course, then you get that caching locally and within CI. If you have already built something or tested it locally, you don't have to pay that cost of doing it again.
Nice. Yeah, because like another related change is also, it was introduced in 9.5, I think, which was the custom workspace layouts, right? Which was also a very like asked feature, because like normally we in an NX workspace, we always have that apps and lib structure, which kind of the recommended structure in a monorepo based on NX. But yeah, sometimes it just doesn't make sense. For instance, like when you host libraries and you want to build them with NX and benefit from NX Cloud. And so custom workspace layouts are really nice there. Someone recently posted whether you can already generate a new NX monorepo workspace with different apps name, like app folder name and lib folder name. But I think that's not yet possible. It's something I think we have to still add.
Yeah, I don't think you can generate one out of the box like with the create NX workspace yet. But yeah, I think
no, right now I think you have to generate and remove the folders and then rename them, and but should be pretty easy.
You probably have to create an empty workspace and then start from, or create an empty workspace, update your custom workspace layout in Next.json, and then start from there.
Cool.
So like you said, that has gotten easier as far as creating custom workspace layouts for apps and libs. And if you haven't read the latest blog post about NX 10, go out and read that. It has a section in there also. What Yuri just mentioned there. So the next question is, can I leverage existing build tools and scripts with NX? And this kind of follows in with the question we just had a minute ago with the Angular CLI workspace. It's like normally you have Angular CLI workspace, you have a lot of existing scripts maybe for deployment or just running additional things to copy files over, or other just miscellaneous scripts that you need to get stuff done within the workspace. And it's like, do you have to rewrite all those scripts or do something else with them to get those working with NX? And I think this comes up a lot because we actually have a builder for this that makes that pretty straightforward. I'll open up the docs here. But the easy answer is yes, you can leverage your existing build scripts or tools and scripts within your NX workspace because of run commands. And what run commands are, bring up the docs here. The run commands builder does exactly this. It lets you, if you say you have a script that you want to run and you want to make this as part of your Angular configuration, so you can have your existing script, and then in your workspace JSON file or your Angular CLI JSON file, depending on how you have your workspace set up. Because you can have, like say, if you're running an NX workspace that's primarily Angular, then you're going to have an Angular JSON file. But if you're running like React or just you're not running any Angular projects or Node or Next or even Gatsby, you're just going to have a regular workspace.json file there. And so what you would do is in your architect configuration, you would create a target for that particular task. And this example here just uses a make target and then uses the run commands builder, where you can provide options and the commands that you want to run. And also some additional things here. So you can run these tasks in parallel, which I think they're run by parallel by default. But you can have multiple commands in here. So if you want to build a particular package, then you want to run a script, an additional script. Once that build is done, you can have all those things run as a sequence of steps for a particular thing that has the
and also
NX
the
affected.
affected one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here it is. Like when I use, like, I think the run command is something people don't know about, and maybe you should promote it even more, because like it's something that's kind of a bit hidden. And then especially like if you have some really strange custom tool or even just like a custom script, right? What happens is you often end up like just placing it in the tools folder in NX, which is basically there for having such custom scripts. And then just you hook them up with npm scripts and invoke them from there, right? But if you go a step further and just wrap them in such run commands, you can also like benefit from those affected commands as well. And that's what I did, for instance, recently. I have my scripts in my tools folder, but still I reference it in such a run command, which is really just like a wrapper. And from that on, you can actually go down and also include them in affected runs and things like that. So
yeah, especially if we think about NX as a general tool, then run commands is like a perfect example of what you can do with it just as a tool of running it against different kinds of projects that, like I say, you could have legacy scripts in there if it's like a migration, or
exactly.
even just like I said, miscellaneous things that help you in that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely check out run commands if you haven't already. I know we get a lot of requests in the Narwhal community Slack channel for how to use your miscellaneous scripts or things with that. So definitely check that out and even see how they work with the affected commands that you can integrate them in with your workspace so that you can only run these tools and scripts when you actually need to. And even you still even get the benefit of the caching.
Oh yeah, right. Everything that's hooked into the whole dependency graph will also be taken into account for caching.
Yep. Let's see. Okay, let's move that back. Okay, so this was another question that came up recently, and that actually came out of our, like I said, Narwhal Slack channel. So this probably a pretty quick one, but we'll at least take a look at it and see. So the question was, are there any examples of how to use NX with Gitlab? I have not personally tried NX with Gitlab, but I'm gonna say like most of the concepts are the same as far as like once you clone the repo and running like affected commands where it uses, I don't know if GitLab defaults to a different branch out of the box for affected command, or a different branch out of the box for like master versus main or trunk or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know
an
whether
example
they
might be.
changed it recently. Like initially they didn't. At least like I don't know, 2-3 months ago when I created the GitLab repository, there was just like GitHub basically and defaulted to master. But it could have been that they added some changes recently to that. But anyways, now we also have that support in NX, right? Like you can customize the default branch, so you don't have to kind of always provide the actual CLI command arguments to point to the default one, but you can configure that in the NX JSON. Well, what's the name? Do you remember?
The configuration?
The default. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'll bring it up here. This is like a fresh NX10 workspace here. But yeah, what we added was the default base for affected commands. And that way if your default branch is master that you want to check all your affected commands against, you can have that. Or if I wanted to change this to main, and I save that, and then it doesn't, or it just uses that whenever I don't specifically provide that. So I can type NX affected equals test and pass to all. And this may run everything that I have here, but yeah, saying I shouldn't run with all projects. So let's see, I think I have my app here. So we have affected criteria defaulted to base equals main instead of the master branch like I had there. If I'd have changed it back to master, then it would have used that one instead to find the affected projects. So in the case that GitLab has changed theirs, you can use it that way. But but I guess more specifically to ask, were there any examples about how to use it? And somebody in the chat room actually posted a link to a project in the a project that you can actually go to use to, I guess, demo how you would use NX within GitLab repo.
GitLab. Yeah, because like in general, the main operations don't really change. Like where you might have such points where you need to adapt something is really just like the CI runs, right? And so we have, do we have like, because like in CI runs, one of the more complicated things are probably to set up distributed builds and distributed CI. And it was just like looking at our docs, because we have some docs on that there, but no, I think it's just like in a generic way and for Azure and Jenkins. I think there's no GitLab example yet. So
yeah, I know we had, like you mentioned, if you go through our docs and our guides here, we have CI guides for distributed CI, like I said, for Azure and Jenkins there. And then we just have a general overview page of how you can use those. And we just say here at the bottom, the Azure example is easy to port to other CI providers, Circle CI and GitLab. And I've actually used NX and the distributed NX cloud within a regular or within Circle CI, because that's usually what I use when I integrate in with a new workspace. Is I use Circle CI for all my CI testing and building and everything. So I do know firsthand that it works there.
Yeah, exactly. Usually you have to adjust and look out for the variables, though they might obviously change a bit. Like what's the commit SHR key that basically got built, and does the example repository from the person from the community actually showcase a distributed build, or is it more just a
that's why I was gonna bring it up here, because I know they have GitLab CI, GitLab configuration. Like I said, I'm not that familiar with GitLab, but see, it looks like they're using, they have some scripts here and run many.
That looks like the script from our docs, but adjusted basically for GitLab. This is awesome. We should actually maybe link to this. To have another example on our docs, like contribute to the docs, basically that part here.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like I said, if you want to, it's like I said, I don't know if this is just an example app that they forked from, because I know we had a repo that had how you can use distributed CI. So they may have actually taken the Azure example and just tweaked it for GitLab. So it'd be a good reference, another good reference point to have.
Yeah.
There. So yeah, like I said, I showed the link in the here, and I'll add the link to the show notes so you can visit that later and check that out. So it'll be in the comments there. So let's check to see if I saw some comments here. So the question was, or this is from John, looking for some guidance on Docker and package JSON files for individual microservices. And then he goes on to say versus the global package JSON. And he says, see in the Express app builder, see an option to skip the package JSON there. So I'm guessing the question is referring to if you're building something that you need to distribute. Let's say you have like an Express app that you want to ship in a container that it need when the container is run, that it installs the dependencies that container needs, only the dependencies that the server needs to start up that Express app. And I'm not sure if we I don't know, maybe if you know the answer to this, but I'm not sure if we do that for, I don't think we do that for Express applications specifically, but I know in some cases you just have to you have to have a package JSON in the, you either use it like a script to move the package JSON over that's going to be shipped with the distributed version.
Yeah, we should maybe have. I remember vaguely that we discussed something like this because, like, we have some. I think it is the React package builder, I think, which does some things like inferring the dependency of the package and adding it automatically to the package JSON, which basically gets produced. Which this would kind of be similar, right? To analyze the project, see what dependencies it has, like traverse all the different kind of dependency graphs, and then generate the package JSON on the fly. And I think there was a discussion on one of our NX weekly meetings where we briefly discussed that. It wouldn't be too difficult, but I don't think it is in NX there yet. But I can definitely understand that this would be useful because, as you mentioned, like when you want to package up something into Docker and automate everything there, you don't want to copy over the global package JSON because like that has a lot of more stuff which you don't need in there. And so it just like bloats your Docker container. But that's something we could actually take on our, or it could be like a community contribution. That's always like welcome for these kind of things. We would have to find the place where we generate those for the React package builder to see whether this could be extended more generalized.
Because I know, like I said, I know we did that for at least did that for applications, because I think you worked on that where when we build applications that you can modify the package JSON file for the dependencies that particular package includes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like there were a couple of modifications we made on that. Like one was simply to kind of include automatically the package JSON also in the asset files, and so therefore copied over to the actual dist folder and to be able to ship it with that, because otherwise you would always have had to do that manually, basically, as a custom script, which you need to hook in. So that's now built in the latest release, as far as I know. But there was also another change which Jack, I think, implemented, which was to traverse the dependencies and also like augment the package JSON with the dependencies that specific package needs when it gets installed. So basically the peer dependencies, if you want, would be compiled automatically without you having to manually add those into your package JSON. And in theory, like I didn't look at the code for that. And I think it was in React package builder, but I'm not 100% sure. But in theory, I think that mechanism could definitely be generalized and then expanded like for, like, I don't know, in this case, an express package builder that then also like copies over packages and generates its dependencies.
Yeah, I was trying to generate, just as I have this sample workspace here, we can see that, I'll bring that back up here in a second. But yeah, the application window. Yeah, just to kind of show this for, at least for the library example, like I said, I'd have to double check to see if you can do this with a Express app. And I think the Nest, I always get the confused. Next, I think if you generate a Next application and you build a production version of that, it does ship with a package JSON that you can, but like I said, that comes from the React package. But yeah, like I said, if you generate a library that's publishable or buildable, I always still get those mixed up. But
we have some changes coming there as well, so. to make some more confusion.
Still includes a package JSON there that you can modify that has like your peer dependencies, and then when you build that particular library, it will have those dependencies there. So you could pare it down to whatever you needed. And like I said, if you had an Express app, you could do something similar with that. So I think this next one is probably along the same lines. Are there any considerations for containerizing an NX monorepo application? And that's from Oscar. But yeah,
There's
I think
nothing built in yet, I guess. but I think there is some plugins around, if I'm not wrong, like some community plugins which do some Docker stuff. I'm not sure whether they do packaging though.
Yeah, let's see. I'll bring up the community page here because I do think we have a plugin for that. Chrome tab. This is the next blog post, but yeah, the community page. I do think we have one for, like I remember, one for Docker, for NX plugin to build Docker images of your affected apps.
Yeah, exactly. That one was the one I remembered.
Yeah, so that, I would say that probably will take care of what you would need. If you're using an NX workspace and you want to Dockerize an application within there, you can actually install this plugin in your NX workspace and integrate with that pretty easily. And it had, like I said, part of this shows just like the flexibility of an NX workspace through plugins that you can build on top of it, and add some extra functionality that we don't support officially, at least today. Yeah, like I said, you have your Docker configuration and allows you to pass your environment variables, and even has an example for how you would use that with GitLab, CI versus GitHub, and also some other examples here using it with GitHub Actions. So yeah, that would be at least how you, like I said, an easy way. There's already a plugin that will take care of that for you. I guess that's a short way to say it.
Yeah, the community plugins are awesome. I just recently also saw on Twitter there's someone working on a plugin for Vue. And so they already have kind of, I'm not sure whether it's already stable release or more like a beta or RC candidate. I think there's one thing which is still missing in NX. I'm not sure whether it got out with version 10. I still have to follow up with that, which allows you to basically hook in more into the whole dependency graph, behind NX. Because that obviously it's what like governs the whole affected commands and various other things. And so that's, I think, one of the last pieces which you would need maybe to write some really sophisticated plugins in order to be able to hook that in there and contribute your own dependency graph based on your tools you're basically building. But other than that, like there are already amazing community plugins out there. And it really exploded. Like once we opened that up, it really like exploded in terms of new plugins coming along. Yeah,
so can you expand on that a little more as far as what kind of things would you think we could build or people could build with that? I know the first thing that I guess you can add into it, but first thing that always comes to mind that people ask about is like .NET applications, being able to drop in those into your NX workspace and build those.
Yeah, I think like with the run commands, as you showed before, we can already do a lot. Like because like for instance, if you create a .NET Core application, you can always just like create run commands and then just invoke the .NET Core CLI behind the scenes to actually build projects. Just like it's the same way with Java. Basically, you could in the same way embed also Java applications inside the next monorepo. But of course, like if you want to provide some more sophisticated integration, you probably would want to create a plugin that has its own builder, such that like you would actually just reference, I don't know, add like some org/nx.net builder or something like that, which takes care of all this fuss behind the scenes. And as far as I'm informed, like until now you couldn't actually extend the whole dependency graph. And as mentioned, like I'm not 100% sure this is possible right now in V10, but it's being worked on. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think
because like obviously if you write,
it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, I think as well. But obviously, because if you write,
we had a PR out for it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I actually think we had a PR out for that. So if you go to the Narwhal NX GitHub repo, I think there's a draft PR out there that kind of lays out what that. I think John. John opened that PR. But yeah, go ahead. What you're saying?
No, but I think that's one of the last missing pieces, because obviously if you have like a CLI behind the scenes which knows the structure of your custom code base there, right, which is not possible to analyze right now with the the NX-based dependency graph analyzer, then you can actually contribute to that dependency graph. And then you would get like the whole effective commands out of the box again. You would get all the logic around the caching as well. So there's a lot of things which you would really get out of the box with such an integration, right? So
people then will, I'm sure some of our community members or even new people that use NX will think of something crazy to build on top of it. So that'd be pretty cool when that actually lands. So I think we have that coming up. And I think we talked about, or me and Jack talked about this before on a previous one, was the smarter affected commands. And maybe those two things kind of build on each other. But being able to use, like I said, smarter affected commands for projects that aren't TypeScript and JavaScript and still being able to build those in a smart way. So definitely be looking forward to that. Yeah, so there is another question. Is there an Angular dev kit or NX utility function to consume an existing library project directory in a schematic to basically duplicate it as a starting point for a new repo?
I'm not sure something like that exists, but I guess I understand what's the intention behind, like to have a very quick starting point to get started, right? So what you can do right now is to just basically use the workspace schematics, which generate a scaffold already for you, but it's really basic. I think it just like instruments the Angular CLI library schematics and runs that one with custom parameter to it. What I usually do is when NX itself, like if you create custom schematics, then if you look into what the NX schematics look like in the NX source code, that's usually my way to go. Like go in there and take a look at how is the actual Angular library builder made, or the library schematic made, how is the React library schematic made, and then like look through the source code, because they reference a lot of common utilities which are in the NX workspace package, if I'm not wrong. And so they help a lot with building those schematics. So that's usually where I go. And I basically duplicate out of there in terms of like copy and paste, right? Which you should do. But for schematics, that's usually the best way to go and debug through those.
I agree. Like I've written my fair share of schematics, and it's like gotten to the point now where I don't want to like try to rewrite them from scratch anymore. Like I know how the thing works, so I know how to go get some existing code that I've done before to kind of bootstrap me along the process of writing a new one.
Yeah. So that's usually how I go for workspace schematics in general. Like just generate the default scaffold and then work from there by looking at other examples and copy and pasting over. And as much like those utilities, I think we even talked about exposing some of them more officially. Because right now, I think you have to deep import some of them from the Now Workspace core folder. Yeah, exactly. And so they're kind of, if you want, unofficial, because like they might change, like the path might change. But some of them, especially if you work with the whole syntax tree and things like that, if you have to manipulate files, there are a lot of utilities already there which allow you to create new files, or for instance, like in the Angular packages, update the new entry inside the routing of an existing ng module and things like that, which you don't run and write by yourself every time. And so you can basically reuse those pieces.
Yeah, I opened up like I said, I'm just going back and forth with this workspace here. I just generated a workspace schematic called my schematic. And what you get out of the box is just one that uses Narwhal workspace and just a general library. But you could, like I said, that's just a starting point. You can then go, like I said, I know we have existing ones in our docs that you can build off of this. So if you wanted to generate some files, like I said, what I would normally do is, if I wanted to add some files, I would, add a files directory, and in here, what I usually do is add a template source, and I'm trying to think of I think there's an apply templates. Like I said, I can't remember exactly what the thing is, but you can add additional ones in here to add to this after you create a workspace. And then we have some additional utility helpers, like you mentioned before, like one of them is update package JSON, but you have to do a deep import into the NX workspace, utility functions.
Yeah, exactly.
There's ones like update package JSON. You can update a file that will let you work with schematics a little more easily than what you would have, as opposed to like starting completely from scratch. So there's some stuff there.
Exactly. Yeah, they automate already a couple of things which are also specific to an NX workspace, like basically searching for that Angular.json or workspace.json, which might be different, right? And so they handle already a lot of those like edge cases which you might have in an NX workspace for you. But I would definitely recommend also to go check out, because on our docs, I think you wrote that, right? The workspace schematic documentation.
Yeah, I did.
On our nx.dev.
Yes, I don't think I added. I'll bring it up here also, but I didn't add one specifically for using the workspace, normal workspace API ones, just because it was, like I said, it's not considered to be official public API. But there are some docs.
A generic walkthrough, I think, but it's pretty good. Like the one there, if you go through the steps described there, you get a pretty good feeling what like the creation, what the creation process is looks like. And I think like that's also a point. Like a lot of people are scared away from schematics because like initially they sound kind of strange, and like even the word schematic is kind of particular. But you can actually do automate a lot in your workspace, because oftentimes it's also just like, I mean, you maybe use like one of the Narwhal schematics or even the Angular schematic that generates a library, but you don't like that a module spec is being generated, right? And so you can just like go and automate that. Like you just invoke the default Angular schematics for generating a library, and then you delete the file that was generated afterwards, right? So it's really just a couple of lines of code sometimes, but it can already give huge benefits for automating and standardizing how things are being generated within your workspaces. So,
yeah, definitely. Like I said, we have a guide here that kind of walks you through, like I said, some of this stuff that I talked about that I couldn't remember off the top of my head, but creating files from a template, or running the general library schematic, and then modifying a file or adding a file or moving that file around. So it has enough there to get you started. But then, like I said, we have some additional options there on how you can provide custom options. And then I think down here at the bottom, we have a section for it. Like I said, it's minimal because it's not considered to be public API. So you have to do a little digging there for those utility functions. Jason said that there isn't that thing we talked about before with the dependency graph enhancements. He said there's an issue there, but not a PR. So if you want more information about that, then go see that issue on our repo about extending that. This must be .NET backends day. We had another question here. Is it possible to use NX Angular front ends and .NET Core backends have a structure of multiple microservices that can be assembled together via iframes? I think, yes, you can. I believe you can do this today with run commands if you have those additional ones in your workspace. So what I'm thinking here is you have to have run commands, and you probably have to take some use of implicit dependencies. So you may not have, you use your run commands to build your, your .NET project and then have that build your Angular app also. But I think there's a little more, I think it's a little more manual today that you would need to be able to run, like I said, a .NET Core API using the run command, because you have to invoke the .NET Core CLI, I suppose, from the run command.
Yeah, maybe you could open up, because you're already screen sharing, the implicit dependencies thing, because like a lot of people, I guess, don't know what that's about. Because in the end, it's just like a way.
We have. So this guess is be a good enough example here. For implicit dependencies, just in general, they are files or projects that cause your affected graph graph to change. So you can say for these top level ones for implicit dependencies, if your Angular JSON file changes, then it's basically implicitly included in all the projects that are affected. So if somebody changes that file,
I
then that
think
means
Brandon
that.
froze unless my internet connection doesn't work anymore.
Okay.
But anyway, let me just go ahead meanwhile. So what Brandon was referring to is in the screenshot, which you should still be seeing, like there are those implicit dependencies which allow you to specifically say or tell the Angular, the NX CLI affected commands, which projects depend on each other. Because for instance, like the classic example is here, as you see in the my app end-to-end test, and Brandon is back online, I see.
Yep, I'm back.
So it's just like explaining the implicit dependency. So basically, the classic example is the end-to-end tests, as you see further below, because like they don't really have to have a strict dependency, or they normally don't have a strict dependency on your actual application. And so whenever you run the affected command, those wouldn't be triggered as being executed again, right? But you actually want to execute them whenever you change your app. And in order to basically tell NX, look, this one depends, like my end-to-end tests depend on that specific app, you can use, as you see in the last line here in that screenshot, or like in that code example, there's that implicit dependencies which points then to my app. And so that's a way to basically refer specifically by yourself, basically, to the dependency graph.
Yep. Okay, so we got another good one here. I have microservices, 5 services on my front-end app. Trying to do run many target serve. First one serves, but not the other ones. How can I serve them all other than in 6 terminals? So this is
That's a good one.
I think this is a pretty straightforward one. So the because I think I've run into this same issue before. When you run, I'm going to type in just an example here of target equals serve dash all. So this is what you would run if you like I said, he has 6 projects and he wants to run the serve target on all of them. By default, let's see, we can go to I think this is a good one for our docs here because I think it should be documented here. So yeah, this is a typical example of NX run many target equals test or target equals serve all. I think what the option you want here is the parallel option. And by default, this is false. So by default, it's only going to run the first one. And if the first one isn't, and if the first one doesn't like exit immediately, then it's never going to go on to the other one, or to the second one or the other one. So if we look at an updated version of that, run NX run many target equals serve, and we run all, and we say parallel, pass the dash parallel flag, then it will run all of them, at the same time. And that way, if they're all serving on different ports or they all have isolated responsibilities, then they all will be kicked off at the same time. And then you won't have to open 6 terminals to, like you said, open 6 terminals to run those together. Because I ran into this same issue. Because if you generate, it's like when you generate a workspace with, let's say, Angular and Nest, and then you say, I want to run serve on both projects. And then initially, you or at least I forgot the parallel flag, and it just started up the Angular CLI project, Angular project, or Angular application, but didn't start up the Nest app because the Angular app was serving and it didn't die, or it didn't continue or exit to allow the other one to start. So that's an easy fix for that one. Let's see. This is more of like I said, an upgrade question, but I have an NX10 workspace trying to update Angular. Git following Codalizer has an incompatible peer dependency, Angular core. So I'll leave that up there for a second. So like peer dependency warnings are basically based on like the package itself. So if the version of Codalizer is, and this may be something we have to look into, but if the version of Codalizer is expecting let's say the version of Codalizer isn't up to date yet, and it's still on looking for version 9 of, or doesn't include the semantic versioning doesn't include Angular version 10, then those are the reasons why you get those peer dependency warnings. It's not that necessarily something's broken. It's just that the versions are out of it. The package JSON for the peer dependencies for Codalizer might not include the ones that are needed for Angular version 10. So it could be that, or it could we just need to bump our version in our in an NX workspace so that when you upgrade, you'll get the version that does include that. That makes sense.
Yeah, many times if you're lucky, it even works anyways. So often this is really just like also a warning, right? To know that this is the dependency that has been tested against, and this is what it's supposed to work with. But many times it's also working with the newer one. I'm just looking up where I can see what a Codalizer already upgrade, but
like I said, I've run into this with NGRX a few times, or people run into these when we're in like this period of between major releases and they upgrade to Angular version 10, but like NGRX is still on version 9, and then you start to get the peer dependency warning. It's like nothing's technically broken, but it's just that the versions aren't aligned yet. So I have seen that issue a few times. It's not, like I said, I have yet to run into an issue where I would rather have that than have the other one where I'm locked into a specific version, and then like you have two different versions of something in your node modules, which always seems to cause things to go haywire when you have like multiple versions of the same package in your node modules. So that's to be always something to check for there. Let's see. Let's check. Let's see. Oops. I don't want to check on that one. I'm just checking Twitter here to see if we had any questions there. If you're, like I said, if you have a question in the chat room, feel free to ask there. I think we're using the NXQA hashtag now. So if you, even after the stream is over, I'll bring it up here in a second. The NXQA. Use the NXQA hashtag on Twitter to ask questions there that we can answer on a future show. Or if you have any, like I said, have any questions during the live chat, we'll definitely take a look at those also. I'm scrolling back through. Okay, I don't see any new questions. So I think we'll getting pretty close to wrapping up this one. So I'll bring up this one and then we can talk about this, because I mentioned this at the beginning of the office hours. And for some people that maybe don't follow NX as closely as we do, let me scroll back up here. I'll remove that. But it's like, what's new in NX 10? Because like I said, if you haven't been watching, right before we came on NX office hours, we actually released version 10 of NX. And I don't have any fancy music to play or applause.
We should organize something
There you go.
next time.
Next time, yeah. We'll have some applause and some like confetti drop on the screen or something like that. It's fun. But yeah, if you go to our blog.narwhal.io, you'll see that we just launched NX version 10. So some of the new things are there. Like I said, you can see the title, customizable workspaces, and some of these things we actually talked about today were customizable workspaces. I see our NX logo. We talked about things we did in NX 9. Like I said, there, custom layouts where you can have, today we have apps and libs. If you have open source project, you can change that. We talked about default base branch for affected commands, where you can change it to main or trunk, or if you want to leave it like it is, that you can configure that. And one thing that we, like I said, we kind of touched on was for open source projects. Now there's a preset option for that you can generate for open source projects that gives you a different layout out of the box.
Cool.
Different layout out of the box.
I did miss that one. I just saw it today when I generated the new NX workspace today morning when I tested out the latest RC. Just like that preset OSS came up, so nice thing. Also, what I see here there is any open source project gets unlimited NX Cloud, right? I just saw that fly by.
Yes, it is. Yeah, if you have an open source, don't want to skip over that. If you have an open source project that uses, well, this is even if you have an open source project that doesn't have like a traditional NX workspace structure, you can add, the Narwhal workspace to your project, add the Narwhal support to your existing workspace, and just reach out. If you, sign up with register your token, and then just tell us which account, or just reach out to us. I guess it'll be, I don't think we have a special code for that one, but you can reach out to me on Twitter or Victor on Twitter or someone else on the NX team, and we'll get you a coupon code for unlimited NX Cloud for your open source project. So definitely check that out. And I'll just say, just as a shameless plug here, we are using NX Cloud with NGRX to build that. So that's pretty cool. And it seems to be working pretty nicely. So
Victor recently tweeted out a couple of projects which are using NX. There are a lot of them around already, like open source projects.
Yep, we're using it, and I think Angular testing library.
I think. Angular testing library. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like I'll tell you this as a joke, but it's like all the state management Angular libraries are moving to NX, which is nice.
Oh, really?
Because we got like NGRX is using it, Akita is using it. I saw in the Slack channel like NGXS is looking at using it. I'm like, okay, we're just gonna have all of them under the NX umbrella as far as NX Cloud goes. But yeah, like I said, if you want to look at the other things in the blog post, we talked about Angular 10. We mentioned that we're in the context of the peer dependency issue with Codalyzer, but now you can officially upgrade to NX 10, which will upgrade you to the latest Angular packages. And those, like I said, we have some other things up here. I won't spoil the whole blog post because I did take some time to write it. So go and read the blog post. And let's see, I'll check one more time and see if we have any more questions. Oh, somebody said for the next one for the celebration, should we have dancing whales? Hey, that's always, it has to be a narwhal. You can't just say a whale. It has to be a narwhal.
Yeah, it has a narwhal.
Okay, so I did see one more question though. And maybe we'll see if we don't have enough time to answer this one today. What are the recommendations for SASS plus Angular within a monorepo? And I don't know that there is anything specific that you have to do here.
The only thing which I can think of is how you structure them. Like what I've seen many people do is, for instance, put all the SASS files in a library folder, actually, such that you can basically then embed them in the various projects, right? So you don't, because like often what happens is like in a workspace, you have like your own custom theming for your corporation, right? And so that makes sense that those like library style SASS files, which may contain utilities, which you need like across your different applications, can even live within basically a library. And so you can just like link it from there. And that's something what I've seen people use.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's kind of
the only recommendation I could think.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar to what you mentioned with I think it was a post you wrote before about like sharing assets. Kind of similar to that, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's it for this episode. If you have further questions, you can reach out to us on Twitter or visit our GitHub page or even our Narwhal, visit our community page. Definitely visit our community page. I'm going to open it back up here where you can like I said, GitHub repo, our community Slack. We have over 500 members in there now. So definitely check that out. Follow NX DevTools on Twitter. Got to get all the plugs in. NX DevTools there.
Start the NX repository.
Yes, there you go. I have to add that to the things to plug. Start the NX repo. Subscribe to the NX newsletter so you get notified when we do future episodes of NX Office Hours. And feel free to keep reaching out to us with these great questions. I think that with that, we'll see y'all next time. See ya.
Bye.